In Pokemon, a fantastic move may just be the difference between a good Pokemon and a dominant Pokemon. And so I have gone through all 18 types to pin what exactly are the best moves that each one has to offer. And by the way, if it's a signature move, then I made sure to also include a non-signature move, because if I didn't, then this whole dang video might just be signature moves, and that's no fun for anybody, now is it? As the most versatile type, there is tons of competition for what Normal's best move is. Fake Out is a VGC staple. Shell Smash absolutely revolutionizes the utility of many slower Pokemon. Extreme Speed is a powerful and reliable move. So you might be disappointed to learn that the best Normal type move is actually one of the most basic ones. Protect. At least if you're playing VGC. In a doubles format, being able to block all forms of damage for one turn unless your opponent's name is Urshifu is invaluable. A well-timed Protect can turn the tide of a match quicker than anything else. In fact, you literally can't play VGC without at least one Pokemon in your party knowing Protect. I know, you're sad, you expected something more grandiose to start the video off, so how about an honorable mention for Boom Burst? Boom Burst is the most powerful attack in the game with no drawbacks. None. Nada. Zilch. And pretty much any Pokemon who's ever had access to this move, save for maybe Rillaboom, is going to use it. This move makes you respect Chatot. Now that is an accomplishment. Not as powerful as Protect, but pretty powerful. Moving on to Grass, this is one of the only types where I can definitively say it's one move, and that move is Spore. I doubt there really is any debate behind this one. Breloom pretty much got Spore banned from competitive singles, and in VGC, Amoonguss has always been a threat because it can instantaneously put anything to sleep. In singles, you get transformed into a sitting duck. In doubles, the match becomes a temporary 2v1. We've talked about this before, but Sleep is just a busted status, and having the ability to inflict it on anything that isn't a grass type or holding safety goggles is just absurd. There's a reason people specifically build their VGC teams around not getting spored. VGC players hate Sleep as much as college students with a paper do. Legit, the only downside to Spore is that it only goes to fungus-based Pokemon who are usually them. But if one of them is even remotely better than Parasect, you can bet you'll see them because they have Spore. For Fire type, we've talked about this attack in the ranking signature moves video in the past, so it should be no surprise that it's Sacred Fire. With 100 base power, 95% accuracy, and a just plain evil 50% burn chance, Sacred Fire is one of the best, most reliable attacks in the game. And the real kicker? It's technically not a signature move anymore, since Entei has also been able to learn it since Gen 6. Jeez, just imagine if Gouging Fire got this move. At the rate power creep is progressing, it'll probably get it before too long. Speaking of power creep, the most impressive part of Sacred Fire, though, is just being a Gen 2 move. Not only is it just old, it's from the generation that arguably introduced the least influential moves and Pokemon. Spoiler alert, it is the only Gen 2 move I'll be talking about in this video. For Water, we have our first true signature move of the video, and that is Volcanion Steam Eruption. Simply put, it's just better Scald. At the cost of only losing 5% accuracy, it gains a whopping 30 power. VGC players should count their lucky stars that Mythicals are almost always banned, or else Volcanion would turn that into his playground. So obviously it goes without saying that Scald is the best non-signature move for water types. Sure, it's a bit weaker than Hydro Pump, which is still a popular attack, but the 30% burn chance is just too good to pass up. Luckily, Game Freak severely limited the amount of Pokemon who can learn this attack as of Gen 9, because it was definitely becoming a problem. Honorable mention to Walking Wake's Hydro Steam, though. This one is just broken for the fact that it doubles in power in both rain and sun, which are already the most common weather conditions. For Electric, my picks for the best are two of the Gen 1 basics, Thunder Wave and Thunderbolt. These moves are available for almost every single Electric-type Pokemon to learn, which always makes them reliable picks. Thunder Wave is just an easy solution to permanently disable any fast glass cannon. It may not be on the same level as Spore, but Paralysis is still one of the better status conditions, and having a 90% chance to inflict it is wildly good. As for Thunderbolt, it's just old reliable. There's a reason Ash's Pikachu never forgot it. 90 base power, 100% accuracy, no rain required, it works for the main story, it works for singles, it works for doubles, it's just fantastic. But I do want to shout out a signature move that you probably don't think about on a daily basis, that being Bolt Beak. Quick, tell me which Pokemon can learn Bolt Beak off the top of your head without looking it up. Zapdos, Kilowattrel, nope, okay, time's up. It's the signature move of the fossilized bird Pokemon, Dracozolt and Arctozolt. Which, I know, is technically two different Pokemon, except Are they though? Bolt Beak, like its more infamous counterpart Vicious Rend, doubles in power to 170 if the Pokemon moves before the target. It may not get boosted by Strong Jaw like Vicious Rend does, but these Pokemon do get access to Sand Rush and Slush Rush, which does make them kinda scary. This might just be one of the most slept on signature moves purely because it belongs to two rather forgettable Pokemon. For Fighting type, the best overall attack is Detect! Haha, because it's Fighting type Protect. Did you see that coming? Okay, I know you're mad, so overall I would say it's actually another signature move, and that would be Hisuian Decidueye's Triple Arrows. It's already one of the strongest physical Fighting type moves at 90 power, but also has a 50% chance to drop your opponent's defense and a 30% chance to flinch. Luckily, Hisuian Decidueye is slow, so that last one really doesn't matter, but just imagine if literally any other Pokemon learned this attack. Honorable mention to Victory Dance, the signature move of Hisuian Lilligant. As the physical version of Quiver Dance, likewise it would be pretty insane if any other Pokemon got this move. For non-signature moves though, it's definitely a toss-up between Sacred Sword and Close Combat, and ultimately I'd say it comes down to the format you're playing in. Close Combat is better in singles because of the higher base power, and wiping out your opponent with certainty is pretty important, but in doubles you do still have to tank a hit from your opponent afterward. So Sacred Sword not having the defense debuff is pretty nice and makes the move a bit more reliable. It's also worth noting that Sacred Sword is more powerful than Close Combat and still has no drawback if your Pokemon has the Sharpness ability, making it the go-to option for Pokemon like Hisuian Samurott and Gallade. For the Flying type, I'm once again going with the signature move for the best. It was tough choosing between Rayquaza's Dragon Ascent and Tornadus' Bleak Wind Storm, as Dragon Ascent, which is not a dragon move by the way, I know, very confusing, is essentially Flying type Close Combat. Meanwhile, Bleak Wind Storm is like a powered up Icy Wind, hitting both Pokemon and dropping their speed. The only downside is that it isn't as reliable, only hitting 80% of the time, but that can be negated by the rain, so I actually think I'd give the edge to Bleak Wind Storm here. But for a non-signature move, look no further than Tailwind. This was kind of a tough pick since no other Flying type move really jumps off the page, but Tailwind is undeniably powerful, especially in VGC where it doubles the speed of both Pokemon on your team. With such a massive boost, it's no surprise that it turns the winds in your favor. The best Poison type attack is yet another signature move because Game Freak has been going absolutely nuts with these in recent years, and none quite matches that energy like Sneasler's Dire Claw. Essentially being Poison Jab on crack, this move has a 50% chance to poison, paralyze, or sleep the opponent. I don't even understand how that works. It's like Sneasler pulls the slot machine and says, let's go gambling. Outside of that though, the best widespread poison move is probably just the classic Toxic. It significantly helps that when used by a poison type, the move never misses, making it one of the most reliable status moves in the entire game. It's no Spore, but like Thunder Wave, it's infinitely useful for taking down bulky Pokemon who would otherwise dominate the meta. The best ground type attack is, surprise surprise, another signature move, this time being one of Zygarde's 1000 Arrows. 1000 Arrows hits both targets in the field even if they're flying types. So it's basically Earthquake, but with the added bonus of nothing being immune to it, and it doesn't hit your partner at the cost of only 10 less power. Splendid. While we're at it though, I may as well shout out Earthquake for being the best non-signature ground type move. While it does hit your teammate in doubles, there are plenty of ways around it, such as having a flying type, levitate, or protect. So if you balance your strategy correctly, you should very rarely ever be hitting your own Pokemon. And in singles, it has no drawback at all. It's just an absurdly reliable 100 base power, 100% accuracy attack, which are hard to come by in this game. Honorable mention to Headlong Rush, which is basically just another Close Combat reskin. Obviously it's good because it's ground type Close Combat. I think that's all I really need to say. In some facets, this move has actually become more popular than Earthquake, but across all formats, I think Earthquake is still just a bit more common. If you've learned anything new so far, then be sure to subscribe so you never miss a new video. Most of my viewers aren't subscribed, and I would really appreciate it if you did. It's free! Okay, so kicking off the second half, we have Rock, and honestly, this one fully depends on the format you're playing in. If it's singles, it's Stealth Rock, duh. Gotta make sure to keep all the ice types oppressed. But if it's doubles, it's Rock Slide. Duh, gotta get those 30% flinches in. But to be completely honest, both of these moves pale in comparison to a Pokemon that is luckily never legalized in VGC, and that is Diancee's Diamond Storm. 100 power, 95% accuracy, hits 2 targets, and for each target it hits, it has a 50% chance to raise Diancee's defense stat. That's right, with a little bit of luck on your side, you just use Iron Defense while using Diamond Storm. And what does that mean? More body press damage, baby! Again, just like its Kalos brother in Volcanion, thank goodness this thing isn't legal. Honorable mention to Iron Boulder's Mighty Cleave though. This one attack was so good that it single-handedly put Terrakion out of a job. Oh, and did I mention it hits through Protect? Give this move to any Pokemon aside from Iron Boulder and you risk turning someone into the next Urshifu. But hey, you know what they say, when everyone's Urshifu, no one will be. Up next is the Bug type, which despite definitely being the worst type in the game, comes stacked with a surprising amount of good moves. And none of these are signature moves, which is a nice change of pace. First up is the crazy good utility move of U-Turn, the first move in the series that allows you to attack and do a delayed switch at the same time. I probably should have mentioned Volt Switch earlier as well, but oh well, I just did. Quiver Dance is also one of the best setup moves in the game. It's so good that it turns your average ordinary butterfly Pokemon into somewhat competitive threats. Like, in the lowest tiers. Hey, I said somewhat! But the one move that transcends them all is Pollen Puff. I honestly love this move and wish there were more like it that have completely different effects depending on how you use it. As an attacking move, it has a respectable 90 base power and 100% accuracy, making it one of the best offensive bug moves. But if you use it on a teammate, you restore up to 50% of their HP, making it an invaluable support tool for VGC. And wouldn't you know it, Amoonguss also learns this move. Bro will never fall off. Anybody praying for his downfall should just stop. It's not going to happen. Psychic is the type that Game Freak routinely tries to cook the most with, and unfortunately more often than not ends up burning down the entire kitchen. In the worst moves video, there were about 20 possible Psychic moves that I could have chosen as the worst. But if they did successfully cook with one move, it's Trick Room. Entire teams can be built around Trick Room, as it elevates some of the game's worst Pokemon into amazing sweepers, and completely debilitates some of your opponent's best Pokemon. It's a strategy that's very hard to prepare for, and the only way to undo it is to bring your own Trick Room. In many respects, this condition is somehow even scarier than most weathers or terrains. Honorable mention to Lumina Crash though, the signature move of Espathra. With it always harshly lowering the opponent's special defense stat, it's borderline impossible to tank 2 hits from this move. I don't even know if I can call it the best because Espathra is so broken that it would sometimes rather use stored power than Lumina Crash. This Pokemon is problematic. You know, I was kinda disappointed researching Ghost for this video because, quite frankly, despite being one of the coolest types, this is probably the most boring section of the video. Yeah, it's just Shadow Ball. Shadow Ball is reliable, hits decently hard, it's just the go-to 9 times out of 10. Though if we include signature moves, it's not even a contest. As Calyrex Shadow Rider's Astral Barrage is literally unparalleled in terms of power and utility. And while we're at it, let's just go ahead and give Calyrex Ice Rider the award for best Ice-type move too, because Glacial Lance is essentially just the same thing. Even if it still annoys the crap out of me that a Lance somehow hits 2 targets standing next to each other. It doesn't make sense, somebody help me understand. But again, turning to non-signature moves, I would actually say it's Freeze Dry. Despite being significantly weaker than Ice Beam, what makes this attack so good is the fact that it's super effective against water types, which is like one of the most important types in the game to beat. This one effect means that pretty much any Pokemon who learns Freeze Dry will most likely run it over Ice Beam. For Dragon type, first considering signature moves, it's most definitely Dragapult's Dragon Darts. It's significantly more powerful than Dragon Claw since it hits twice, and more reliable than Outrage. It's also just an incredibly smartly designed move too, because it can't be easily countered by Protect in VGC. In doubles, one dart will attack each Pokemon in your opponent's team, but if your opponent protects on one Pokemon, then that dart will redirect into the other Pokemon. This makes Dragon Darts a relatively low-risk move to go for in doubles, and if you're on the receiving end, a very stressful move to deal with. Outside of signature moves though, I would argue Dragon Dance is the best. Raising attack and speed simultaneously just turns so many Pokemon into sweepers. It's pretty much the ultimate setup move. Well, aside from Victory Dance, but that's not widely available yet. Steel's best move is Double Iron Bash. Sorry Tinkaton believers, as awesome as Gigaton Hammer is, Double Iron Bash is nearly as powerful without a drawback. Since Melmetal is the only Pokemon that learns this move, it should always be boosted by Iron Fist, which gives it a true base power of 144 when you combine both hits. And on top of that, it can break sashes and KO at the same time, and each hit has a 30% chance of flinching. You may think that equals a 60% chance overall, but it's actually 51% because math is weird like that. I don't know, hard to explain. Still, if you have better odds than not of flinching your opponent and doing serious damage, that's the best move, no doubt about it. Outside of that though, I'd probably give it to Iron Head, which is like the commoner's version of Double Iron Bash. Still, 80 power and 30% flinch chance aren't too shabby. Dark also has a signature for the best, and thank goodness only Urshifu learns it because Wicked Blow is just stupid broken. It's a 75 base power attack that always lands a critical hit, so it has a true base power of 112.5 with no drawback. Anyway, I hope there aren't any time travelers from Gen 3 watching this video because the next best Dark type move in my opinion is Knockoff. Yep, what was once a measly base 20 power attack with no viability is now one of the most common moves in competitive Pokemon with 65 base power. And if it actually knocks an item off, the power raises an additional 50% to 97.5. That's just crazy strong even if you ignore this move's best effect, which is removing your opponent's item. Shout out to Taunt as well, definitely one of the best utility moves in the game. And for Fairy, this one really has no competition, as it's one of the most broken signature moves of all time, Xerneas' Geomancy. Although, you would not believe how many people argued with me in the Legendary Pokemon video about Geomancy actually being bad because it takes 2 turns to execute. And no, I don't think the fact that you have to use Power Herb to make this move good is a bad thing. You can't divorce a move from a strategy it's commonly used with, so that's all I'll have to say about that matter. Just know that for a long period of time, this move single-handedly made Xerneas one of the best Pokemon in existence, until Zacian came around and sent it to the Shadow Realm. As for the best non-signature, it's just Moonblast. 95 power, 100% accuracy, and the chance to lower special attack? It's kinda cracked, not gonna lie. So those are my picks for every single type's best moves. Are there any hot takes that you particularly agree with or disagree with? Let me know in the comment section down below. But don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoyed, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.